Alright guys, what's up? My name is Eric Chesser. I'm here with Wild Hunt Life. You guys know him. He's on TikTok and now YouTube. So, he's getting the first official tour of my garage, which is a never-ending, evolving space because things are coming in and things are going out all the time, but I want to take you guys on a quick tour of this whole place.
Alright guys, what's up? We just got in here to the
What do we call this? We call this, yes, South Slopes. It's
South
like
Slopes.
South Slopes office.
Yeah, so South Slopes we got in here, and it's pretty awesome, pretty unbelievable. There's a lot of cool stuff in here, and I'm excited to take you guys all along and show you what Eric has in here.
Yeah, we'll start right here in the corner. So, we got a lot going on in this space, and like I said, it's always changing. Some of the newest updates is the dog chew, little side hustle I got going on. So being a shed antler hunter and a big fan of finding antlers, I was like everybody else and never wanted to cut them up. You know, the idea of cutting up a big old brown shed just killed me. But after so many years of doing it and realizing when I sell the antler buyer, somebody down the road is cutting them up anyways. So yeah, this year I started a little side hustle. If you guys need dog chews, here's my shameless plug, racksnacks.com.
Racksnacks.com.
R-A-K-S-N-A.
And I'll link it below. So.
Alright, to the good stuff for you guys. This space, probably the biggest question is like, Eric, did you kill all of those? And the answer is no, and I'll walk you guys through some of the animals I was lucky enough to take and then some of the ones that I did not take. So first off, this is a bull that kind of a big surprise bull, really. It was on a general season hunt here in Utah, rifle tag, and I had never seen the bull, and I had hunted the area the week before with my brother with a muzzleloader tag, deer hunting, which I'll show you guys some of those bucks. And I saw like 2 5-points, just decent bulls, and I decided I might as well go up there opening day, and to my disbelief, this guy was on the hill that I had glassed so many hours and hours of glass in this hill and have never seen an elk even close to this size. So I had the place to myself, and lucky enough, after like a 30-40 minute hike, I got in position and took him, and he just was one of those bulls that grew on the ground. And again, this is a general season unit tag, so totally not expecting a bull like this. But when I walked up on him, that's when I saw he had all these extra devil tines. It's hard to see, but he's got a extra on the royal over here. You can kind of get back there and see that. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 scoreable points. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a 7x9 general season bull.
Yeah,
He's got some good length, and even with those short beams, he's right at 355. So yeah, that's the general bull. There's 3 bulls that will kind of go across that kind of are like separation points in the garage space. So that's the first one, and then through here we've got a whole bunch of random shed antlers and deadheads. This is a Kentucky buck. I got this last season, first animal out of a tree saddle. So I shot that with my bow out of a tree saddle. Super fun hunt. These videos all live on the Hushin YouTube channel. You guys can go check them out there. And then, yeah, the whole shed wall of fame. A guy named Josh built me that sign. It lights up. We should get the feature lights going on here for you guys. Bam! So we got the shed wall of fame, and most of my favorite elk sheds of all time are hanging on these little shed sliders. So I wanted a space. The whole goal of having this garage was to have a space to not only display some of my shed antlers, but also the heads, but have a place to be able to check them out and look at them. So my buddy Mike built me these little shed sliders where they display the antlers, but you're able to just slide them on and off and hold them on. So yeah, look at this jumbo. This is like a 15, 16 pound 7-point with a triple brow. Not very good on length there, but nice and heavy. And we can go into the shed stories for days, guys.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good stuff in here, but we'll just kind of move on. But yeah, there's so many good sets. These are really some of the biggest sets I have, and some of the sheds that just mean a lot to me, whether it was like who I was with at the time, or maybe a bull that I had multiple years off of. So that's just a big mixture of some of my favorite keeper stack. These guys will never end up with these guys. Those are the cut-ups.
And then you have most of these pickups over on the Hushing channel, right?
Yeah, guys, tons of shed hunting videos. If you guys are into that stuff, which you probably are if you follow Quaid. A lot of shed hunting videos and shed tour videos on the Hushing channel. So this is a find that I did not find. A buddy of mine found them. It's 2 mule deer that locked together and died this way. They're still fairly brown. He found them in the spring, so they had only been sun bleached for probably 6 months or so. But was able to legally pick them up and recover them. And he was talking about selling them, and that was just killing me, because I'm like, dude, you found the holy grail of deadheads. Locked mule deer. There's just not that many out there. And then to have a 190 heavy, massive, big buck in there just made it super cool. So I'm kind of holding on to those for him at the moment. He wanted to sell them, and I couldn't let him sell them. So I've got them here in a safe place. And then we've got the big 5, I call this guy. I've got multiple years off of him, and I mounted him on this rack hub system that's kind of got some ball joints. But that's a set I picked up with my brother Walker, and one of those bulls that won't score that high because he is a 5-point frame, but when you hold those horns, you just, when you grab him, you know, like that bull is next level, even though he's just a 5-point. But yeah, he's one of my favorite pickups. And then this, I had a couple white deer sets that were in here. Where's the other one? Right here. Which kind of represents like a time frame in my life where I was really, really dedicated to mule deer. So this set and that set both came from Wyoming. And that's really what I focused on before I got into elk. I really loved finding those mule deer sheds. And I had both of these sets pegged so I can mount them on the rack hub system. But those 2 sets, I wanted them on the wall because they really represent probably like your age, man, like right out of high school, maybe early 20s, where I would sleep in my Jeep Cherokee, freeze my butt off, and just watch mule deer all day and pick up sheds. So I got to find a space for those. Obviously, we have a little dead space on the wall that we got to fill up eventually, but haven't really figured that out. This is what I call the cluster. The mule deer wall is above the TV, and they're nice, and they're evenly spaced, and they're, you know, nice and balanced. And then this was like, I need to get a lot of animals in a very small space. And when I built this, I was like, I got plenty of space, but man, it got eaten up real quick. So I've got an axis deer from Texas, a low fence axis deer for those who care. A Utah pronghorn. I don't hunt those very often. I got one with the guys at Mountain Ops. And then we've got some whitetail up above them, where I went on a trip with my dad. Me and all the guys from Hush took our fathers to Texas to do a whitetail hunt. So those mean a lot to me, because I haven't really hunted with my dad, even though we both enjoy it. We've only really spent like a handful of hunts together. So those are cool. Got a big spike freak buck that my brother shot here in Utah, general season tag rifle. Super cool story. We're hunting all day and hadn't had any luck, and it was just windier than heck, and we knew we kind of needed to get on the north side of the canyon because that's where the wind, you know, the south side is where it was ripping. So we're like, man, you'd think all the deer would be hanging out on the north slope. Sure enough, my buddy Jason spotted this buck with his bare eyes. And he says, there's a buck down there, and I'm throwing up my glass, like looking 500-600 yards away. I'm like, dude, I don't see it. He's like, it's right there. It's only 160 yards off a cliff, and my brother had the tag. So he got that one. Then I have a variety of deadheads, man, and these are just a mixed bag. Like this one, for example, sticks out to me because you can see it's kind of got the shellac on it. This is my father's first mule deer. he ever shot, and he took it when he was 16. One of the only racks that he ever kept. This is what started this obsession for antlers for me, was this guy. It was on the wall at my grandma's house when I was just a kid. I was like, Dad, can I have that? And he let me keep it, and I just cherished that thing, and then slowly learned that they shed them. And as I got older and got my driver's license and stuff, that's all I wanted to do. So this is a variety of skull caps from coos deer that I've taken, whitetail that I've taken, bucks I've found dead and legally got back, and some bucks that were gifted to me. Like when I was a young kid, like this one right here, I know it's hard to see. This was on the side of my neighbor's house. And I knocked on the door. I was rollerblading. I remember. This is how far this goes back. I was rollerblading around the neighborhood, and I saw this dead buck. This is during hunting season. And I knocked on the guy's door. I don't even know the guy. I'm like, hey, what are you doing with that deer on the side of your house? And he's like, I don't know. My son shot it. I'm like, well, can I have it? I just collect antlers. And he told me to come back in a few days. So I came back in a few days, and he says, you know what? That thing's starting to stink. My son's not doing anything. Why don't you have it? So it's just a nice 4-point buck, but this just is a variety of deer I've either taken, deadheads I've legally possessed and got back from Fish and Game, some of my dad's stuff, and even some that were just gifted to me because, like, I just wanted every antler. I still do. Like, I want all the antlers. You know, even though I'm cutting some up and I have this stack of keepers, like, I can't get enough of them. This stack represents a lot of miles, man.
Yeah,
I don't know how many boots I've worn out. But this entire stack is mainly, the whole base of it is elk. And then you can see it goes into some mule deer that I've kept over the years. And then even some axis deer from Texas and Hawaii, some moose, some whitetail from North Dakota and South Dakota. There's a big mixed bag in here. But it mostly is these elk. And man, when I started finding elk sheds when I was young, that was my favorite. Big, heavy elk antlers. And this is the stuff that I've kept forever, and a lot of this stuff is from back when I was your age, man. So yeah, keeper stuff right here, and I've moved it from I've moved the majority of these antlers from like 3 to 4 houses. I'm just hoping that this is where they can rest, because I built this place, and this was in my garage for the whole year that I've had this house, and I finally was like, you know what, the garage was built for this. So I hauled them over here, stacked them real nice, and now it's just kind of the centerpiece.
Yeah. And some of this stuff is insane impressive. I mean, can't even describe it unless you see it in person. But there's some pretty awesome stuff in this stack.
When people come over, they want to see, what's this one? I'm like,
yeah. It's at the bottom of the stack.
This apart, bro, man. This take forever. But, you know, like, for example, this is a coos deer set. That my buddy found on an Indian reservation, and I've been lucky enough to just connect with so many people like you through social media, and I reached out to this guy and I just asked him, like, hey, would you let me buy a coos deer set? I don't have a coos deer set in my collection, and you know, the majority of this stuff is found by me, but guys, I love this stuff so much. I'm not ashamed at all to say that some of this stuff was traded or gifted to me, but these, like this, was gifted to me, and they mean a lot because this is a set that he just sent me for free. He wanted me to have them, and just means a lot, man. Like, I would love to collect like something memorable from anybody who wanted to send me one. Yeah, hit me up in the DMs. Hit me up in the DMs. Send me all your sheds. I'll never cut them up for dog chews, but stuff like that, man. Like, it means a lot. You know, people that I've connected with, and I've done the same. I've gifted a lot of antlers to a lot of fans, so it's kind of cool. All right, moving on, man. So a couple things to point out here. I want to highlight this because this is my first shed antler that I ever found. I was young. This is before I got a driver's license, teenager, and my dad had a friend who lived up in the canyon right out of Salt Lake here. So when he would go visit his friend, I'd go with him, and then I would just take off from his house into the foothills. And I just remember seeing this white bird coming out of a sagebrush. And I knew exactly what it was. That was my first ever shed antler. Thing is years and years old, but it's a cool brown. It's a mule deer that kind of looks like a whitetail, and is really one of the most unique sheds I ever found, and that is my first shed. So that's a keeper. This is elbows deep.
Elbows deep.
Pretty cool story. I'll make it short, guys, because I can tell stories for days on all these. But we had seen this bull. The Hush guys and the Born and Raised guys were all hunting archery, elk hunting. This is just public land, general season. And we hunted this bull for a day, and we just kept getting close, and it never happened. That whole stock ended up by another hunter bumping him out of the country. Never saw him again. The following year, I was having just a slow year. It's one of those years where you're like, dude, how do you kill an elk with a bow? Like, it's impossible. And you really start to doubt yourself and just think like, dude, it's not possible. Like, but you always fall back, like, you know it's possible because you've done it before. I killed this bull unexpectedly. I was actually stalking in on another giant 6-point, probably 360. Like, it was a stud. He was narrow, but he had the tine length and the main beams to be a 360 bull. And I was going up the hill, but I strategically told myself, you got to be going slow in these cedars because this is a very popular bedding area because I had some close encounters in there before. So I'm sneaking through the cedars, and right as the cedars break into this burn where I kind of needed to sneak up to get this bull, or to try to get close to him, right when I let my guard down and stopped sneaking, and I just I had my phone out. Remember, I just made a phone call, put the phone back, and I looked down, and this bull's standing there, facing away. So just imagine that wide rack. If you're me, the bull's just facing away. And I just knew immediately, it was a windy day, and I just knew by what he was doing in his body language that he was focused on something down canyon. The wind was confusing him, and because he was confused and didn't know exactly where danger was, he was frozen. And so I dropped to my knees, I got a range on him, and he was 71. And luckily, I knew that I had to get out of the wide open, and I snuck to a tree. So I knew I'd shaved about 5 yards off, and right when I got to the tree, I see his rat go like this. You know, so if you're me, he just goes, looks up at me, and I'm like, oh, this is game over. And I'd already dialed to 70. Well, there goes his rack, and he's focused on whatever that was going on down there that was confusing him. And that's when I kind of was like, if this is going to happen, he needs to turn right. And dude, he turned right. Like, if he turns left, he's out of my life. If he goes straight away, I just see his butt. He turns right, breaks that broadside, swings up at me. Right as he's swinging up at me, I'm already at full draw, and I knew I had shaved off 5, but he gained 5, so I committed to 70 and just freaking smoked him. The best shot I've ever put on a big game animal with a bow. 70 yards on this guy. Walked up on him, and let's just say he was bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
This bull, even with the broken point here, which you can see is a significant amount, and a little bit shaved off here, is just shy of 385. So a 6x7, he's got one little point right there. But overall, just beautiful bull. I mean, they don't make main frames like that very often.
No.
That pretty, those royals and back end. So special bull for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I remember watching when it came out, just thinking that these eye guards being so close is so cool.
Huh? They really do grow together. And
Yeah.
like, for example, if I had have picked up those sheds, I would have never probably like tried to put the points like that. You know what I mean? Because you always try to line up the G1s like somewhat parallel almost. But not him, dude. They almost crisscross. Cool, like, such a good way to protect his face.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, moving on to what has kind of become a little office section. We've got a few things going on here. Probably the most recognizable is the firebolt. Just another unbelievable story that even when I watch the video, I'm just like, that happened to me. Like, that is me in that video. It's still just like, every time I watch it and every time people send me a nice message about it, I'm just like, still can't believe how it went down. I'm not going to spoil it for those who have never seen the firebolt video. Just search the firebolt hunting video and watch the whole thing through. Don't skip.
Seriously, like, do not skip. It's one of the coolest stories out there, I would say, on YouTube for hunting. It's just an awesome story. So go watch it go down. But
it's pretty crazy.
another thing that is insane with this bull is you just like, I've seen pictures of this bull, watched a lot of videos. You just don't get the scale unless you're in person.
That's 100% of people that saw the photos when they first came out. A lot of people didn't believe the size, and a lot of people like accused me of like sitting behind the bull and like trying to Photoshop it. And I'm like, dude,
No.
I don't know what you're talking about. My knee in those photos
Yeah.
is touching the elk.
Yeah.
Like, how else can I take a photo of the elk?
He's huge.
And when people started to get a chance to see it and put their hands on it, they're like, dude, now that I can hold it and feel it, the pictures don't do him justice.
Yeah.
And for all the guys that love score, I mean, I like score. It's a fun way to reference things. This side is 191. And I can't remember what the other side is. But together, the bull gross scores right at 395. But because he's so lopsided, this being his strong side, this is like a 360 bull, and this is like a 415 bull, maybe even 420. But when you kind of put them together, he scores right at 395, which again, super impressive. I would never change anything about him. The rack, the story, the way it all happened, I think was meant to be. Yeah. And yeah, that was my first like big bull with a bow. This is my first elk with a bow on the far left. Kind of a weird freak.
Yeah.
Talking about freaks, like somehow, some way, I've been able to shoot a lot of character bulls, you know, with extra points or palmation or little tweaks, but that thing's got 3 antlers.
Yeah, that's weird. I hadn't checked that out, but he does that. I don't know if you guys can see it from here, but that little point on the back is not connected. That's
yeah, he would have shed that separately. So you would have
antler. Yeah.
You would have found a spike, a freaking weirdo, and then like a raglan.
Yeah.
And then you probably would have never guessed that they all kind of go together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to see bulls like that. But yeah, this corner is kind of office space, and we've got some bucks on the wall. This big bodied 3-point, I shot that in Idaho with a rifle. The next one has got a cool story. The rack, if you can tell, is colored. It's fake or stained. That rack is like 50 years old. My dad shot that deer 50 years ago and gifted them to a friend who had traveled to Utah to hunt for mule deer, but he didn't shoot one. So my dad gifted him the rack, and that guy had had it in his mechanic shop all these years in Oklahoma. And through time, my dad visited out there and reconnected with the guy, and he still had that rack. So he shipped it back to me, and I colored it for him and then mounted it on a cape for Father's Day. So that's another buck that just means a lot to me. That will stay in the collection forever. And then the buck next to it is a buck my brother shot out here with a rifle, general season, and is probably my favorite taxidermy mount. Something about the cape and just they did a great job. I really love the mount. But super cool 3x4, giant fronts, but really no back end on them. And then yeah, let's see, what do we got here? Let's talk about these. So these antlers and then those antlers on the other side of the TV. These are 2 sets of shed antlers off the Firebull. So one set was found by my buddy Jared and his friend. They matched it up together. And him and I actually both had a set of elk sheds off the bulls we killed. So he killed a bull I had a set of. I killed a Firebull he had a set of, and we just swapped. So that was pretty cool, super nice of Jared, and he was a huge help on the hunt. And then this other set, it's kind of funny because it hasn't been talked about a lot on my platforms, but a shed hunter and his dad found 2 years off the Firebull. And they kept one set and then let one set go. And they sold the one set to a lady, and she was fixing it. So the third was broke, and this has been repaired. And the other side's even worse, like it's completely broke after the fourth. So there was some repairs off it that don't really represent what it was for real. But I still wanted that set, so I was able to work a deal out with her. And I made replica sets of the Firebull, and we traded and made a deal that worked out for both of us. But yeah, that's the Firebull before he kind of got that extra points. And
yeah,
all that. So these are cool to have. There's a few more sets floating around out there. There's a group of guys down in southern Utah that have a couple years off him, and they have the best year off him, which was the year before I killed him, and he was like 415 or something crazy, just giant, but he was busted. So again, this one is from here back is not truly his antler, but she did do a really good job, and she wasn't quite finished coloring them, but I still wanted them. I'll leave them as is for now, but that's 2 years off the Fireball. And then yeah, we got a set of Axis sheds from Hawaii. If anyone ever gets a chance to go to Hawaii just for fun, hang out on the beach, look at deer, like super fun place. And then this was a buck that was actually gifted to me too. So I've done a lot of things in this hunting space, and for a few years I had a group of guys that I would film their hunts and kind of just guide, spotter, whatever you want to call it, just an all-around helper. He shot this mule deer, and he just gifted me the rack, like super cool. Like some of these guys, that's what I think a lot of people maybe don't understand with some of the people that are, you know, high money guys, or they get to hunt a lot, or they're trophy hunters, whatever you want to put them in this category. One, they're some of the nicest hunters I've met. The ones I met have always helped me out. Two, a lot of people are like, they kill more than they eat. But what they don't see is those people will pay for that meat a lot of times to be packaged, and they'll donate it to the church or a local organization. So even though they're out there, they're getting to hunt a lot, it's cool that they're able to be successful and afford all those hunts. They're always giving back to the community, and that's one thing I think that people don't get to see as much as I got to. So that was gifted to me, and I think he even gifted out all the meat. So yeah, that brings us to the mule deer wall.
Mule deer wall.
Yeah, I've been looking at this wall, and I love how they're spaced out evenly. But I'm like, I could fit a lot more if I kind of juggled them around. But the way it is, I got 6 bucks up there. From right to left, we got my brother's muzzleloader buck, general season in Utah. Kind of funny, he didn't draw a tag that year, and there was some leftover tags for let's just say a very low desired unit. And even in a low desired, heavily hunted unit, general season public land, we still pulled off what I consider a giant.
It's a beautiful buck.
So it's a way sweet buck. Then a Colorado buck that I took with a rifle, and then it goes back to my brother's rifle Utah buck. Then it goes Colorado. That's a buck I call the Dirty 30. Yeah. Just lays out really wide and has those extra inlines. Then it goes Colorado again, and then the biggest buck I've ever been lucky enough to harvest is on the far left. Just a mid-80s, like mid-180s buck, heavy, good frame, eye guards, old buck.
You can tell he's old.
He was so worn down.
Looking at his cape and stuff.
His cape was ripped open. Do you remember the video where he had this gapping wound, and when I walked up to him, I thought I shot him there. And when I got to study it a little more, I saw where I shot him, but he had this flap of skin that was just flapping, where I think 2 tines got underneath the hide and flipped it open. It was all infected, but that thing was just old buck, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Barnwood wall side of things. I always knew I would have, this wall would just be painted, and my first impression was I wasn't going to have any heads on this wall, because I didn't want it to feel like this whole space is like just like crashing in on you. Yeah. But it is 12-foot ceilings, and I decided to throw up one of my elk, and honestly, it's not that bad. Like, you still got plenty of space to walk. So these are some cool bulls that I've just got European mounted, starting with the first archery buck. This is a bull that I shot with my buddy Drayle this last fall with a rifle in New Mexico. Really cool character buck. He's got a cheater, just mass, heavy fronts, like super sweet. This is another Utah general season bull, which like that's top end. Like, you're shooting a bull like that on public land on a general season tag, you're doing pretty dang good. And somehow, I'm not going to take all the credit for it, but somehow I've been lucky enough to be in the right places at the right times. Opening day, both Utah general season bulls. Yeah. So then we go to here. This was a hunt with Shed Crazy and Mountain Ops and Dallas and Drayle in New Mexico. So this bull and that New Mexico bull, same unit. a lot of people ask me, why does it have a stick in it? So cool story. When we shot the bull, we were just in this hellhole, and I carried out the head, and just that stick we built to kind of keep the antlers from rolling forward, because we were on such a steep incline. I was dragging the back end of them, like the royals. So that stick just rested on my backpack and kept those antlers kind of away. And then we used the stick on the horseback, and it really helped with riding on the horseback on the pack out. I just remember like Shed Crazy hatched that stick while we were sitting there taking a rest, and I was like, I'm leaving that on for the mount, dude. Like, to me, like the character, like the twine and the electrical tape, it's just really part of the story.
Yeah.
So I kept it on there. Anyways, that's why that's on there.
Memories.
Yeah, it's just part of the storyline. This is a big deadhead I recovered in Utah and got back. Just for you guys who don't know, in Utah you cannot legally just take deadheads. So I found that bull, which is kind of cool because I have a set of sheds off him from the same mountain. And it was like instant stress. You know, you find a giant like that, you want to take it, but I knew I had to call the fishing game, so I had to get off the mountain to call fishing game. He tells me he's busy for the next week and a half, so he can't make it. So now I got to wonder, is it going to be there when we get there? And I've had bad experiences where I reported something, and then by the time they got out there, it was gone. Luckily, him and I went back in there together so he can do his investigation. And so much respect for the fishing game. Like, they really try their best to do their job, and they have a hard job, and they got to deal with a lot of different things. The reason they want to come investigate it is to make sure that that thing wasn't poached or killed, you know, by a car or whatever it could be, not a man-made kill. So he went through and he did thoroughly, man. He checked every rib, every bone, and couldn't really say what the cause of death was. Therefore, he rewarded me with a deadhead, which comes with a slip and everything. So for anybody that's wondering about the deadhead rules in Utah, you got to turn them in hopes that you get to get it back.
And do you have to pay for the carcass?
I don't think you pay. Like you said in Wyoming, you pay, right?
Yeah, it's like $8. Yeah, it's not anything huge, but
yeah, like I don't think we have that program.
Yeah, a little different.
So, lucky for me, got to keep it. And then this one is another rifle Utah open bull hunt. I shot that bull with my buddy Chad Mendez. If you guys know Chad, he's an MMA fighter or previous MMA fighter. I saw him boxing on his Instagram the other day. I'm like, is this guy trying to come back? I hope he does. Dude. Watching him fight was fun. But that hunt was fun because I was with Chad and his dad, and we were lucky enough to get 2 bulls on an open unit. And again, that's a pretty dang nice bull on just an over-the-counter unit.
Yeah.
Then after that, I just got a little gym sesh, you know, so you can get a pump.
Weights.
Get your swell on. But yeah, that's the office. You guys got to see it first, the full walkthrough.
And then the hush on the floor with the fire bowl.
Yeah, my buddy Joe told me, he said, I'd come and do your floor. And I'm not a visionary guy. Like, I had a vision for the barnwood, but I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do on the floor. And it was his idea, like, let's put the logo on the floor. I said, if we're doing the logo, we're going big time. So the garage doors are right behind you in the summer when it is nice weather. It's nice to have that open and work out and have music in here. Some of the features for those who are into like the techie side of stuff, we got speakers in the ceiling, and we've got a big old 72-inch big screen. I can watch all my hunting films in here and play music and work out. And we got heater and air conditioners in the ceiling, 2 units to heat and cool the whole garage. So when I bought this place, it was just bare bones. Like, it was all just plywood around, and it had already been insulated, which was nice. The ceiling wasn't done, so we insulated the ceiling, sheetrocked the ceiling, added the lights. But this is a dream come true for me, man. Like, it's been fun to have guys like you, and when people come over, it's just a fun space to hang out, to share stories, and reflect on some of these good memories I've had in here, because this represents a lot of the happiest times in my life, for sure, which is hunting, shed hunting. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tagging along through that whole tour. I know the video ended up getting to be a little long, but Eric and I really just wanted to take the time to show you as much stuff in there as we could. and I think it turned out awesome. There's a lot of cool stories in there and a lot of fun memories that he has with almost everything in that whole garage, which is really cool, and I think a big dream for almost anyone in the hunting world to have something like that. I also wanted to take the time just to say thank you, Eric, if you're watching this. I know you're a busy dude, and I really appreciate you taking the time to take me through there and just share a bunch of stories with me off the camera and help me out and teach me a lot of stuff. So I had a blast hanging out with you, dude, and I really appreciate your time. As always, to you guys who are watching this, I would really appreciate if you hit the subscribe button and turned on the bell notifications. With that said, I have a video coming out in 2 days on Thursday talking about my experiences hanging out with Eric and also with Ben from Shed Crazy. I got to hang out with both those guys in the same week. So if you guys are interested in that, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss that video. But with all of that said, I guess thank you for being here. I appreciate all of your support, and peace out, guys.